Mesdames et messieurs les représentants du monde scientifique, mesdames et messieurs, en vos titres et fonctions, mesdames et messieurs. Je serai bref ce matin parce qu'à défaut de laisser suffisamment de moyens à la recherche scientifique, laissons-lui au moins un peu de temps. C'est en 1903 qu'un certain Horace Rackham, banquier et avocat d'Henry Ford, constructeur automobile, émet cette remarque. Il est certain que l'automobile n'est qu'une mode. Je n'investirai pas dans ce secteur, mieux vaut investir sur le cheval qui, lui, est là pour durer. Je ne sais pas si cette citation est réelle, mais si c'est le cas, quel visionnaire, n'est-ce pas? Plus près de nous, dans les années 70, Ken Olsen, pourtant fondateur de l'entreprise Digital Equipment, explique à ses subordonnés que l'ordinateur personnel n'a absolument aucun avenir, qu'il n'y a vraiment aucune raison pour que quelqu'un veuille un ordinateur à son domicile. En réalité, depuis le début des temps, l'innovation suscite des réactions parfois de mécompréhension, souvent de peur et très souvent des prévisions tout à fait aléatoires. L'intelligence artificielle n'échappe pas à ce mouvement finalement très naturel dans les sciences. Faut-il pour autant la craindre ou la refuser? Ce ne serait bien sûr qu'une réaction vouée à l'échec. Nous devons donc apprendre à maîtriser ses productions, à dompter ses excès. Nous devons nous former à la maîtriser autant que possible. Vos travaux, vos interventions, les réflexions que vous allez partager aujourd'hui au cours de ce congrès annuel de la communication scientifique suisse, poursuivent ce but. Mesdames et messieurs, au nom du Conseil communal de Neuchâtel, ville d'innovation, et en mon nom propre, je vous souhaite donc la plus cordiale des bienvenues, en même temps que des travaux et des échanges fructueux, productifs et utiles. Bon travail, bon congrès et merci de votre présence.
Madame la conseillère municipale, les salutations protocolaires ayant été faites parfaitement par vous-même, je me contenterai d'un mesdames et messieurs, chers collègues. Je vous souhaite la plus cordiale des bienvenues à cette 13e édition de ScienceComm. C'est avec un grand plaisir que nous vous accueillons dans cette magnifique ville de Neuchâtel, pour la première fois à Neuchâtel, mais pour la 5e fois en Suisse romande. Cette rencontre annuelle est devenue un rendez-vous incontournable pour toutes celles et tous ceux qui s'intéressent à la communication scientifique. Et c'est un honneur pour moi, en tant que nouveau président des Académies suisses des sciences, qui soutiennent ScienceComm depuis ses débuts. Plus que jamais, et vous le savez, la communication scientifique joue un rôle crucial dans les relations entre la science et la société. Elle est en fait fondatrice de la confiance que le public entretient face à la recherche scientifique, une confiance absolument fondamentale pour faire face aux défis que notre société doit affronter, comme nous avons pu le constater en particulier lors du Covid. La confiance ne se décrète pas, mesdames et messieurs. La confiance se construit. Elle se bâtit tout d'abord en expliquant et en illustrant les méthodes employées par les scientifiques. Elle contribue à développer la connaissance dans un processus itératif, fait de débats et de controverses que le public ne comprend pas toujours, mais la controverse fait partie de la construction scientifique. La confiance se fonde aussi sur les sciences citoyennes, qui permettent à la population de participer à la recherche scientifique, en collectant notamment des données qui vont être utiles pour construire cette recherche. Elle se bâtit finalement grâce à la communication scientifique, une communication qui n'est pas innée, qui n'est pas réservée aux scientifiques les plus réputés ou les plus médiatisés. Elle s'apprend, la communication scientifique, mesdames et messieurs, avec des professionnels de la communication, mais aussi grâce à des échanges entre toutes les personnes qui sont concernées. C'est précisément le but recherché par la conférence organisée ce jour, qui est non seulement un lieu d'échange et de réflexion sur les défis et les opportunités de la communication scientifique, mais qui est également une plateforme essentielle pour renforcer les liens entre les chercheuses et les chercheurs, les communicants et le grand public. Je profite de cette occasion pour vous rappeler l'existence du site ScienceComm24 que vous trouverez sur le site de Sciences et Cités, une initiative qui est portée par les Académies suisses des sciences. Cette plateforme offre une multitude de formations continues, en ligne, gratuites, pour les professionnels de la communication scientifique, et je ne puis que vous la recommander très chaleureusement, pour y poster aussi vos propres cours ou vos propres sessions de communication scientifique. Je tiens également évidemment à exprimer mes sincères remerciements à nos principaux et précieux partenaires et sponsors, sans qui cette édition n'aurait pas été possible. Un grand merci en particulier au Fonds national suisse de la recherche scientifique, aux Académies suisses des sciences, à Recherche suisse contre le cancer, ainsi qu'à l'Université et la ville de Neuchâtel pour leur soutien généreux et leur engagement à nos côtés. Je voudrais aussi vous informer que la prochaine séance ScienceComm25 aura lieu les 3 et 4 septembre prochains à Saint-Gall, et nous espérons vous y retrouver pour poursuivre ces discussions passionnantes. J'y serai et je me réjouis d'ores et déjà de vous y rencontrer. Cette année, notre thème est d'une actualité brûlante, vous en conviendrez, la communication scientifique à l'ère de l'intelligence artificielle. Pour l'anecdote, le titre de cette édition en allemand, Verständlich, viral, verlässlich, Wissenschaftskommunikation im revolutionären Zeitalter der KI, a été généré par une intelligence artificielle elle-même. Preuve sans doute qu'elle peut être utile, qu'elle peut être même génératrice de contenu pertinent à vérifier. Cela montre aussi à quel point nous sommes déjà immergés dans cette révolution numérique, incontournable. Ne la bloquons pas, mais sachant prendre les mesures qui permettront de rendre cette intelligence artificielle utile pour la science, utile pour le public, utile pour le dialogue entre science et société. Sans plus attendre, j'ai le plaisir de passer maintenant la parole à Mme Farida Kali, qui est membre du Conseil de fondation de Sciences et Cités et qui aura l'honneur de modérer cette conférence matinale. Je vous souhaite à toutes et à tous une excellente journée et des échanges enrichissants. Merci de votre attention.
L'IA va-t-elle mettre fin à la communication scientifique et à la démocratie ? Voici le titre du keynote qui va vous être présenté dans quelques minutes. Cher public de ScienceComm, pas de panique. Je vous propose d'écouter d'abord la conférence de Li Nguyen Huang avant de sortir carnet d'adresses et agenda pour penser votre reconversion professionnelle. L'IA est née au milieu du siècle dernier, mais il y a seulement quelques années qu'elle s'enracine dans nos vies professionnelles et privées aussi rapidement et profondément qu'une idée noire se nourrit de vos doutes par une nuit d'insomnie. Au cours de la dernière décennie, l'intelligence artificielle et en particulier les algorithmes de recommandation ont agi comme des miroirs déformants pour la communication scientifique et les démocraties du monde entier, transformant les réalités scientifiques, politiques et sociétales comme une galerie des glaces dans une fête foraine. Amplification du négationnisme climatique, élongation des propagandes anti-vaccins ou focus jusqu'à l'absurde sur les théories du complot. Mais est-ce une fatalité ? Comment renforcer nos fondations ? Li Nguyen Huang nous expliquera dans quelques minutes comment des universitaires et des activistes travaillent sur des modèles d'IA sécurisés et démocratiques pour tenter de contrer la situation actuelle. Alors évidemment, je n'ai pas pu m'en empêcher, j'ai demandé à ChatGPT de nous présenter notre orateur. Comme le temps nous est un peu compté, je vais vous passer cette description. Sachez simplement que ça commençait très très fort puisqu'il lui attribue une magnifique thèse de doctorat de l'EPFL. Petite erreur de quelques kilomètres puisqu'il l'a obtenue non pas dans notre école nationale, mais à l'école polytechnique de Montréal. Monsieur Flickiger, vous l'avez extrêmement bien dit, à vérifier. Pour illustrer de manière un tout petit peu plus pointue, peut-être ça parlera à certains, je me suis ChatGPTisée juste derrière et je suis devenue une éminente mathématicienne. J'espère être reconnue bientôt comme telle. J'ai donc évidemment fouillé encore un petit peu et en effet, en plus d'être un brillant chercheur, Lien Nguyen Huang est un féru de communication scientifique puisqu'il gère non seulement la chaîne YouTube Science for All qui compte plus de 240 000 abonnés et 18 millions de vues, qu'il collabore également à de nombreux autres projets de vulgarisation et de communication. Il est aussi l'auteur de plusieurs ouvrages écrits à 2 ou 4 mains dans lesquels il interroge la science, les enjeux sociétaux de cette dernière décennie tels que l'IA, bien sûr, mais aussi la circulation de l'information ou la pandémie de Covid-19 en posant sur la question un regard éthique et en utilisant toutes les formes grand public de l'essai à la science-fiction. Aujourd'hui, pour résumer, Lien Nguyen Huang est cofondateur et PDG de Calicarpa, une société qui propose des formations, du conseil en sécurité et du développement de solutions dans le domaine du machine learning. Cofondateur et président de l'association Tournesol, qui gère la plateforme de recommandation collaborative de contenu du même nom. Il travaille aussi sur la recherche en sécurité de l'IA et s'intéresse à la résilience byzantine, à la résistance aux stratégies et à la gouvernance algorithmique. Et enfin, il est membre du comité d'éthique de données et de l'IA d'Orange. Mais comme à ScienceComm, c'est la rencontre en chair et en os, l'échange et le partage d'expériences qui priment, j'aimerais vous confier mes propres impressions de béotienne. Lien Nguyen Huang, vous allez le découvrir, est à la fois doué, intéressant, pointu et terriblement effrayant. Heureusement, tout cela avec une jolie dose d'humour. Je vais donc dans quelques instants vous laisser découvrir ce savant mélange. Une note encore, cette présentation sera suivie d'une séance de questions-réponses via l'application Slido. Vous pouvez dès maintenant envoyer vos questions en suivant le QR code qui s'affiche et vous pourrez également voter pour les questions que nous allons partager tous ensemble et je les partagerai ensuite avec notre invité pour la suite de cette discussion. Bienvenue.
Bonjour à tous. Hello everybody. So the talk will be in English. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very proud to see that I'm speaking to so many science communicators today. So first, I want to stress the role of science in general over society. And one thing I would like to highlight before going to the bad news and apparently the terrifying things I'm going to tell you. I want to stress that there have been a lot of very important advancements in science. Like probably one of the latest Nobel Prize awards was a great symbol of this, with the advances like medicine that allowed the COVID vaccines. And overall, if you look at the situation of so here is the graph of the extreme poverty around the world, the life standards have been extremely improved over the last decades. And it's a lot thanks to the different advancements in science. But you might have seen this movie, Oppenheimer. I think as technology advances, we're becoming all more and more capable. And one of the concerns that we have is that we also giving more technological tools to cause potential catastrophes and to let bad actors have this capability. And AI is one of these tools. It can be used in many different ways. But I think it's important to ask really what is it most used for today? As a researcher in developing these technologies, this is clearly one question that is of high importance to me. And if you look at the data, so there are studies that suggest that 96% of deepfake images, like images generated by artificial intelligence, are used for pornography. So that's bad news, especially given the fact that many of these images are actually used with the intent to harass women, and especially women journalists, which are especially exposed to this issue. So there have been a lot of cyberbullying attacks using these technologies, usually on social media, that have been devastating. So this is a huge concern, and it's especially used in authoritarian countries to silence journalists that are critical of the regime. So we really have to be aware of this when we're evaluating the impact, the social impact of these kind of technologies. They have really become, in a sense, weapons of mass psychological destruction. But that's not the only risk. If you look at many trends around the world about mental health, for instance, so this is a plot about anxiety. You see that there has been this shift around 2012, 2013, that really corresponds to the mass adoption of social media. And what's very concerning is that it seems to affect negatively the mental health of many people, especially those that use these social media the most, namely teenagers. And this has been observed in many different countries. So arguably this is a very important source of concern. And this really predates the COVID. So, I mean, COVID has really accelerated the trend. It's clearly not monocausal, it's not the only cause, there's not one cause. But many people are arguing that social media and especially artificial intelligences that are exploited, that are running the social media, the recommendation algorithms, are very behind this trend. Especially, typically what happens is on Instagram, like people are shown pictures of people who are extremely good looking, and they suffer from the comparison. Another very concerning trend is that you see an explosion of cybercrime. I'm sure you've heard of this, and you're really observing this more and more, like on TV or in the news, you see more and more mention of cyber attacks and ransomwares and stuff like this. Maybe one thing you might not be realizing is the scale of this. So it's been estimated, so this is, on that, for instance, is the World Economic Forum that communicated about this, that the cost of cybercrime worldwide is estimated at $11 trillion. $11 trillion. It's 6 times the GAFAMs, the Google plus Apple plus Facebook plus Amazon plus Microsoft. Cybercrime is extremely huge. And what's extremely concerning is that it's growing extremely fast. And so you have more and more, because our societies are becoming more and more digitized and the cybersecurity standards are not sufficient, it's becoming more and more profitable for the bad actors to use these tools to attack. And clearly, generative algorithms are extremely useful to these people because a lot of the attacks are based on social engineering, so like tricking humans on the web. Another, perhaps even more striking issue with artificial intelligence is that they have already been connected, argued to be complicit of tragedies like genocide. So these are two reports from Amnesty International on 2 different cases. Like on the left is the Tigray war. Well, some people consider that it amounts to a genocide. And on the right is the case of the Rohingyas in Myanmar, which has been recognized as a genocide by Amnesty International and by the United Nations. And both have recognized that Facebook's algorithms, especially the recommender systems, have played a critical role in amplifying the calls to hate, violence, and even murder of some communities in these countries. So these are extremely concerning trends of how AIs are actually affecting the world today, like real lives. Here we're talking about millions of people who are endangered, who had to flee the countries, and many of them who unfortunately died. Now I want to focus especially on the case between AI and science communication. Of course, as a researcher in AI and as a science communicator, this is clearly the interface that I know best, and that is, well, as you'll see, extremely concerning to me. So one thing to stress is that clearly our jobs have extremely changed over the last 10 years. I started science communication online in 2012. I was blogging back then. It was cool. But clearly, everything has changed in the way we work online because of our social media and YouTube and TikTok and so on. And things are still evolving extremely fast. You have changes in the algorithms. That means that some people, so on the left is a content creator, Simon Clark, who has a PhD in climate science, and he's doing videos about the climate. And he's extremely successful. He has over 500,000 subscribers. And he made a business out of doing YouTube videos. And a few months ago, he made these videos saying he doesn't think he can keep doing this. And the reason for this is partly because the algorithms of YouTube have changed. They are changing every day. Every day they are adapting to what people consume. They are also changing because of different trends and phenomena that I'll be talking about in a bit. But the thing is that this is creating a lot of pressure on the creators. And sometimes you can see the number of views that just go down, and it's endangering businesses. So there's a huge issue with competition in general, because now more and more science videos are in competitions with non-science videos. I'm not even talking about pseudo-scientific videos. I'm just talking about there's a lot of competition for attention out there, and it's very hard to grab people, to get people to stay with scientific topics. On the right is the case of Twitter. I'm sure you've all observed what has been going on Twitter over the last couple of years. Clearly, the algorithms, the platform has changed a lot. And one consequence of this is that it has opened the door to a lot more trolling, there's a lot more fake accounts than there used to be. And a lot of these fake accounts are used to harass content creators. And especially those that are calling for actions that are like not pleasing for some industries or some countries. So this is typically the case of climate scientists who have been massively bullied on Twitter, and many of them have fled Twitter. And this means that on Twitter now, it's very hard, like there are a lot fewer content that talk about climate change in the right way than they used to be. This is an important way to create an important disinformation strategy. You have to understand that disinformation campaigns are not necessarily producing false information. Like one way for them to combat some information is just to harass the content creators, like with the pornographic deepfakes or with just bullying. More generally, what I would like to stress is that nowadays, when we think of AI, it's very often the case that we only think about generative algorithms. And because like over the last year, I mean, there have been some very impressive stuff that have been done with the generative algorithms. And it's also been the case that the companies have invested a lot in the marketing of generative algorithms. Right now, any company is making billions of dollars in stock market just by making claims about being able to do generative algorithms. But the generative algorithms themselves are not very lucrative. Over the last year, there have been like $22 billion in investments in generative algorithms. Compared to Facebook, this is peanut. Facebook has earned $130 billion over the last year. If you add a look at TikTok or Google and so on, so much of their revenues actually come from advertisement. This is still the main way the tech industry is being financed. And in order to increase their revenues, they have to optimize the targeting algorithms, whether that are like both the ad targeting algorithm, but also you need to optimize the recommendation algorithm, because the recommendation algorithms are the key to keep people on the platform. Like these platforms are in the battle of attention, and really the AIs that are the most lucrative, the most dangerous, I think, by far, are the recommendation algorithms. To really understand why, some people say that ChatGPT is replacing Google search. This is completely outdated. YouTube has already replaced Google search 10 years ago. Like in 2016, like 8 years ago, since 2016, there are more views on YouTube than searches on Google. And to really understand this, you have to understand the way people consume information today. Most of the time, people are using their phones to access information. And on phones, I don't know if you've ever used a phone, but on a phone, it's very hard to type. I mean, it's much harder to type and to talk to a generative algorithm than it is to click, swipe, and scroll. So you have to imagine that when people consume information today, they are doing a lot more scrolling, swiping, and clicking than they're doing typing and searching. And the algorithms that respond to click, swipe, and scrolls are not generative algorithms. They are the recommendation algorithms. This is what makes recommendation algorithms so powerful. It's because billions of times per day, people are demanding that these algorithms send them content. And this gives these algorithms a lot of freedom to recommend any kind of content. They have really become, as a result, the arbiters in a sense of truth, but even more importantly, they have been an arbiters of attention. They are deciding what topic gets attention and what topics do not get attention. Unfortunately, because they are based on profit maximization, which goes through attention maximization, attention retention, like these algorithms want people to stay on the platform, we have observed repeatedly that what gets people to keep on the platforms is by creating some very strong emotions. And one of the most addictive emotions, unfortunately, is hate and anger. Hate and anger is very good to get people to keep on these platforms. But as a result, this creates an imbalance in the market of attention. This means that topics that are divisive, that are hateful, are much more likely, much more often recommended than the topics that, like as science communicators, we would like to see more often recommended. And that's why I made this claim in this paper on the right, that if we don't work on these arbiters of attention, if we don't get them to promote more often science communication, we're not going to get there. Like at the end of the day, I think we have to give more attention to what drives the market of attention. And one reason why they are so powerful is that it's not only about what people see. Like attention is not only about what people see, it's also about what people create. As science communicators, I am definitely extremely sensitive to the number of views that the content that I produce is making. Whether we like it or not, we are influenced by how successful or how seemingly popular the content that we are producing is. And this is even more the case, of course, if you are financially dependent on the success of on the number of views of the content we produce is making. And this has really been shown in the Facebook files. So the Facebook files are documents that have been leaked by Frances Haugen on the left in 2021, I think. That really showed that like content creators, not only like YouTubers, but also classical media and also politicians are really influenced by the algorithms. Facebook changed its algorithm in 2018, and very quickly, politicians and journalists have understood this, and they have been complaining, sending emails to Facebook, demanding that, telling Facebook that because of the algorithm change, like they realized that only divisive and hateful content were making views and were and they realized, like the political parties, the politicians, and the journalists realized that they were pushed towards creating this more divisive content, and they had to, if they want to survive economically or to stay a public figure. And so this is why these algorithms are extremely dangerous and powerful. They drive the incentives, they drive the production of information. Unfortunately, there's not enough attention given to these AIs. Over the last few years, it's been very hard to fight for attention for this and to demand that the companies that are producing these systems pay more attention to misinformation and these kind of issues. Yeah, so the Washington Post had an article saying that big tech is like kind of imitating what's going on Twitter by saying that they're not going to fight this as much. There has been all sorts of firing of ethics teams and stuff like this. I won't go into too much details, but essentially, Facebook is like closing the door more and more to auditing of their systems and to accountability. And unfortunately, this has impact on democracy. I mean, I think we're all convinced here that if we don't have good communication, if you don't have science communication in society, then we cannot have a good democracy. And unfortunately, worldwide, this is really what we're observing. Without quality information out there, you see a lot more. So the blue curves is like countries that are improving. The red curves is like countries that are declining democratically. And for a long time, you see that blue was better than red. Like blue was above red. Like the world was getting better in terms of democracy. But around 2012, 2013, like it's always these years, you see a shift. And suddenly, like the red curves now are extremely high and worrying. You can really see in political reports. So these are reports by the Vidam Institute. In 2018, there was still titling "Democracy for All" with a very hopeful title. And in 2021, the title was "Autocratization Turns Viral." A very scary title. And again, you see many authors, many scientists. So these are all books by scientists that are, of course, it's not monocausal. There are many causes, and COVID is part of the issue. But recommender AIs have been argued to play a critical role in this rise of authoritarian regimes. TikTok in particular is an interesting case because I don't know if you knew this, but TikTok is a product that is forbidden in the country where it is created. In China, they have the company that does TikTok has two products, Douyin and TikTok. So Douyin is for China, TikTok is for the rest of the world. And surprisingly or not, there's a lot more educative content on Douyin than on TikTok. So I think this should be a trigger alarm, and we should be a lot more concerned about the lack of accountability today of a product like TikTok. One thing I would like to stress is that these systems, recommendation algorithms, they are constantly under attack. They are extremely complex systems. Like YouTube is watching a century of video every day, because every day you have a century of content that is uploaded on YouTube, and YouTube has to check everything for copyright and child abuse and so on. So these systems are extremely complex, but they have been designed very quickly with a lack of accountability and a lack of security standards. The standards of security are very bad, and which means that these systems are very hackable, and they are being hacked every day. They are being hacked, one thing is that there are a lot of content that are very bad that are produced, but they are produced now using generative algorithms on the fly, so you can have huge amounts of content that we are now competing with. But the other thing is that they are being hacked by fake accounts. And one thing that the fake accounts can do is to create a lot of artificial views. If you have an army of fake accounts, if you have thousands or millions of fake accounts, then you can make some content seem popular, and this will convince the AI that this content is indeed popular. And this will trigger the AI, this will make the AI recommend the content to a lot more people. There have been disinformation attacks where people have shown that with just like sometimes 10 or hundreds which is not a lot, you can artificially blow up the number of views of a content. And this has been done industrially by some industries. So Tim Hoche is a case in Israel that has been well documented. But there are even cases here in Switzerland. There's this company, Alp Service, which is being sued by an oil tech leader for disinformation and because it was doing defamation. It is claimed to have been doing disinformation about a company. Anyways, just to give an idea of how big the issue is, here's a question for you. How many fake accounts do you think Facebook remove every year? Thousands? Millions? Well, the answer is, so this was 2021, 15 billion in 2 years, so like 7 billions per year. 7 billion fake accounts. I mean, it's easy to know that there are fake accounts because it's more than the population of Earth. And it's a big issue. So most accounts on Facebook are fake. And Facebook is really trying to have one person, one account. You can imagine that on platforms like TikTok or Twitter, it's a lot worse. Yeah, so I think time is passing by, so I'm going to be a bit quick on this, but I think it's important to have in mind that the big tech have a powerful soft power, and they have all sorts of narratives. I think this can be really linked to what has been done in all industries, especially the oil industry, the tobacco industry, the sugar industry. And we're seeing the same strategies being used with a lot of influence on academia, like with Google explicitly asking its researchers to strike a positive tone in AI. There are many publications that can be argued to be extremely misleading, especially if you look at the titles and the abstract. Unfortunately, there's a lot of lobbying. So on the left is like a commission on artificial intelligence in France, and you can see the name of many big tech companies that are not even French. On the right is a magazine of La Recherche where the director of research, the chief AI scientist of Facebook is presented as a brilliant, almost independent researcher, and he's given a lot of space to present his views on the future and what should be the regulation of AI. Well, spoiler alert, he doesn't think that it's necessary. One thing I would like to stress as well is that a lot of the disinformation by all of these industries is not about false information. The reason, the way Coca-Cola is pushing a lot of people to consume the drink without worrying about obesity and stuff like this, is by investing massively in sports and showing that it is cool to drink Coca-Cola. And you see the same kind of strategies in tobacco industries, you see the same strategy in the car industry, and you see the same strategies in the AI industry as well. So I want to say just a few words about how we can envision a different future. So I've been working on this project called Neuchâtel, where the idea is to make these systems of these AI algorithms, these recommendation algorithms, a lot more democratic. Right now, like they are very shadowy. It's very hard to know how they are designed, and there's very little accountability. It's impossible to check that they are designed in a way or another. And so our idea is that we want to solve this dilemma. So really, to us, it's a dilemma. Whenever you're making a recommendation, you're driving focus on some topics, and you're driving focus away from other topics. So this is constantly a dilemma. What do you recommend? Our idea is that we should decide democratically or more collaboratively. Maybe experts should be given more weights on some topics like climate change and so on. But we want to have a more democratic or more collaborative system that is a lot more accountable and a lot more secure. So we've been working on this. So essentially on our platform, we're asking contributors So anyone can create an account and become a contributor. There's a lot of security challenges I won't go into. But essentially people are asked what should be more often recommended. And it's really a dilemma because if maybe you want to recommend 10 videos, but you can only recommend 4 videos at a time. So that's why we have this comparative system where the question is more like which one should be more often recommended. You can compare them on different criteria, like reliability, importance, layman friendliness, and so on. We have like 20,000 people have created an account and over 40,000 videos have been compared. And our idea is really to advance the state of the art in terms of what can be done in such a system. Because as a researcher in the field, what I can tell you is that we're not very good at this in terms of research, because there's not a lot of attention given to this problem. A lot more attention is given to generative algorithms and stuff like this. But there's a lot of very exciting questions, which I think would be very helpful if they were given a lot more attention. Like, for instance, proof of personhood, which means like sometimes people refer to this as proof of citizenship, meaning that we want to make sure that each account on the platform can prove that there is a human from maybe a citizenship, and that they cannot create multiple accounts. And this would greatly reduce the harm that can be caused by fake accounts. And there are even strategies, techniques that allow to do this in a so-called zero-knowledge way, meaning that it would be untraceable, like there would be anonymity, like each account would be certified that it is related to a human, a citizen, but no one could determine which citizen we are referring to. So this could protect as well privacy. So I'm not going into all of the details, but I hope I've convinced you that there's a lot of challenges that we need to work on and a lot of progress that can be done. I would like to mention this quote by Maria Ressa, who's a 2021 Nobel Peace Prize winner. I'm just going to go with the first sentences. She really insists on the fact that democracy is fragile. Clearly in Philippines, she's from Philippines, but worldwide. In any countries in the world, when you're seeing what's going on in the US, in the UK, in Italy, in France, the list is very long. Democracy is fragile, and she says that you have to fight for every bit, for every law, every safeguard, every institution, every story. You must know how dangerous it is to suffer even the tiniest cut. This is why I say to us all, we must hold the line. And I think this is part of the thing that we need to have in mind. So I wrote a book on the topic, and our editor, when she read all of the things that I think we should do to have a safe democracy, she wrote, we face an abyss, kind of meaning like we're never going to get there. Clearly, it's hard. There's this idea that I think we all feel that something must be done in the current circumstances. And it's tempting to say that X is something, and thus X should be done. This is called the politician's syllogism. And this is kind of a danger when you go into an activist group. It's very tempting to do the first thing that comes to your mind. And sometimes it's not good. I mean, this example is used to understand the reasoning behind the invasion of Iraq by George W. Bush. And there's another tempting position, which is called enlightened cynicism, which would be to say that in the end we don't have that much impact, so let's give up, essentially. But what we want to claim is that there are really important reasons to act. I mean, every fraction of a degree counts. This is from climate change, but I think it holds for democracy and science communication. We have to keep fighting for every fraction of a degree. And we also have to fight for new solutions to radically change the status quo and really improve democracy. And I want to stress that, to me, this is the best jobs in the world, trying to communicate about all of these ideas and to create all sorts of opportunities like this. There's one country in the world that has done this. It's Taiwan. Over the last 10 years, it's the only country that has really improved significantly, like drastically, democratically. And the reason why they did is because in 2014 there was this movement called the Sunflower Movement, that was full of geeks and that wanted not only democracy, but the digital democracy as well. They realized that the digital tools that we are surrounded with are critical if you want to align with democracy, if you want to save democracy. And it's really worked for them. I think they are a true inspiration, and we should draw inspiration for them. And I hope I've convinced you that we can do this and we should do this. Thank you.
Alors, on va les prendre tout simplement dans l'ordre, puisque vous avez voté. Donc, on va prendre en tout cas les deux premières, si ça vous va. La première, should scientists stay on Twitter? If they leave, fake news will take over the network. What is the best strategy?
It's a very tough question. I mean, some people stay on Twitter, others don't. So there's always this issue. If you stay on Twitter, by normalizing the fact that it's still the place to go. I think Twitter is really on the decline, so there's an argument that maybe it's no longer the place to go. But I would say more generally, unfortunately, we have to fight in all the spaces, meaning to be present where people are, unfortunately, while criticizing the places where people are. And similarly, we have to use AIs as empowering tools, while criticizing the actually negative impacts. That would be my answer. And maybe for the second question, what can we as individuals and science communicators do against algorithms? I think the thing we're doing best, communicate about this, explain what it is, the issues that it causes, the solutions that are out there to improve the status quo. Because a lot of the issues is really about attention. You see, the regulations that are occurring in the European Union, a lot of this has been based on intuition, on attention. People saw that it was a problem. But a lot of the weakening of these laws were also due to a lack of attention. There was a lot of lobbying, and if you paid more attention to this, we could have had stronger laws that better protect science and science communication, at least, and the people.
Peut-être juste pour approfondir cette question, parce que je l'avais aussi, est-ce qu'on peut, au moment de la publication ou quand on fabrique notre contenu, est-ce qu'il y a des moyens de jouer avec ces recommandations ou de nous positionner en tant que communicateurs pour contourner ce qui existe déjà, pour jouer avec la réalité?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's very hard because these algorithms are in all social media, and right now we are extremely dependent on social media. So, of course, if you're on platforms that are less dependent on recommendation algorithms, like classical media, for instance, there's a lot of things that you don't have to obey the algorithms as much. But as a science communicator on YouTube, YouTube is showing to me every day the performances of my latest videos. And if you want to have an impact, you also need attention. So you also have to play along with the algorithms as well.
Okay. Donc on en est à should governments regulate recommendation algorithms? How about the danger if autocratic rulers do the regulating?
Governments are not very good at regulating recommendation algorithms thus far. In the European Union, you have different laws, the Digital Services Act, the Digital Markets Act, the AI Act. But all of them, I feel, are not really pointing to the real issue of recommendation algorithms. I think partly because there's a lack of attention to this issue. But there are many ways, and also partly because we don't have a lot of good scientific understanding of how these algorithms should be designed if we wanted to design them in a democratic way. I'm not saying that politicians are doing a bad job. I'm saying that they have a very difficult job when it comes to regulating recommendation algorithms. And we need to improve the quality of understanding of these systems, the attention to these systems. And I think this can help eventually have better laws for these systems.
La suivante est plus philosophique. So the mistake was and still is that society tolerates the intolerant in the name of democracy. Is democracy therefore abolishing itself? C'est la deuxième maintenant.
The mistake was... yeah, so it's, I mean, it's very hard overall to build a democracy. So one thing we say in the book, in our book, is that in 1789 there was the French Revolution, and so the people wanted democracy, they installed a republic, but it didn't work. Like it took nearly 100 years to have a stable republic. Like France went through empire and then restoration, so like monarchy again, and then another republic. I mean, it was chaos for 100 years. And the reason for this is that it's not sufficient to just want democracy. You need to think about the constitution, the different rules, but also public education, independence of journalism, of justice, and so on. So there's a lot of things to be built to make a democracy safe and robust against intolerance. It's not easy, but we have made a lot of progress over the years. And one of the issues is that this progress has stayed offline. Like a lot of our institutions are very good, are good offline, but they are nowhere online. They are not as present, they are not as influential online. So I think a lot of the job is to bring the state of law that exists offline online, to make sure that the online world is as well more governed by democratic principles.
On va peut-être en prendre une dernière. Where do we should start as a democratic society to address the problem of the algorithmic governance?
I mean, there are many places to start, but I think just, I mean, thank you very much for inviting me here and giving me your attention, because I think attention is really key. And so I'm very grateful for this, but more generally, if you give more attention to this topic, I think it's the best way to fight the lack of attention and the lack of solutions for a democratic online society.
Merci. Lé, je propose qu'on applaudisse notre premier invité.
Thank you.